that money? That was something that I saw missing in all your slides. What is it that you're going to use that money for, right? You won $50,000, great. But tell me, why do you need that? Because in an instant, both Craig and Aubrey were able to say that the numbers seem to be very less because they were trying to do some back calculations based on what Stuart had earlier said. So if you can validate that with the real need as to why you need, maybe Stuart, that number might become 500,000 instead of 50,000. So you may need to go to the drawing board and do your calculations to get that on. And of course, there are some things that could always be an addendum, which is something that you can have as an appendix, and you can kind of pull it up if there are questions or the investors are coming to that. Things like the exit strategy, things like partnerships that you want to do, things like a demo that you want to do. But in cases where you already have a very good product, I would say chuck the PowerPoint, start with the demo. There's nothing like the pie, right? When people taste the pie, then they know, wow, this is what I'm going to get. So if you have a demo, start off with the demo, like Lauren, you did. That was perfectly fine, because it's now validating in my mind that she's not talking out of thin air, but she's talking with something that she really has concrete in her hands. Some of the other things that you could carry along is an executive summary, a financial model saying that if things are great, hunky-dory, this is what we will make. If things are not hunky-dory, this is what we'll make. If things are absolutely pathetic, this is what we will make. So then the investor also knows that you have thought through your business rather than just sitting inside an air-conditioned room and just judging numbers. So that's where the financial models and the market research will kind of help you. So I had to hurry up without the examples, but I think the examples are self-explanatory. Once I mail you them, we will mail them to you so that you can use them to learn. If there are any questions on this particular context, I have a couple of minutes. I'm sorry, Mr. Paul Singh, I have taken 10 minutes out of your time. Apologies for that.
No,
if there are any questions.
Something you said this morning in the morning class that stood out to me, when you're doing your ask, not to ask for CapEx, not to ask for money to cover your running expenses, because an investor is not going to give you money to run your company. And that was something that stood out for me. And that's where I changed what we were going to use our money for, which is why it's incorrect, my numbers. But I thought that was a really important point that stood out for me.
Right. So there are two ways I would look at it. One is CapEx can always be raised somewhere from anything else. Why do you want to give out your equity if it's just CapEx that you're looking, OPEX that you're looking at, right? Operating expenses that you're looking at. So working capital, generally what I have seen from my customers is most of the times they don't get ended up funded for working capital. What they get funded up is something that can take the company from X to 10X. Anything that can take the company from X to 2X, I'm not really bothered as an investor. That's the general lesson that I have learned. And like I said, as an entrepreneur, also I have felt that why should I give 10 or 20% of my equity when I can probably raise it in some other way at a lesser cost with debt or whatever kind of a thing. So yeah, thank you so much, Stuart. Any other questions?
I just launched a poll in the meantime, Pradeep, for those who've been here all morning for the Western chapters. If you haven't been here for the last hour, then don't respond, and I'll leave it open for about another 30 seconds.
If I look handsome,
Pradeep, you're going to do some work. You're going to do some work one-on-one as well, yes. Right? With the team? Right.
Yes. So while the poll is going on, tomorrow you have the mentor fair where you will get mentored by people who are TiE members, TiE ecosystem members. They will try to help you with the mentoring that you would need. It will be one-on-one sessions in a closed breakout room. So it would be good if you can get your entire team and then come and talk to those mentors. They will also bring you the third person perspective as to how a person who's not involved in the business that you're doing would ask questions. After that, from 9 o'clock India time, that's 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, we will also have mock sessions where your team will have to make the actual pitch that you would probably pitch on 15th and 16th. So get your presentations ready, keep your technology ready, keep your backup ready, keep your internet ready, because Murphy will always come visiting you and make sure that you don't lose out on the time, right? So we have some very good judges. Their LinkedIn I will be sending to you on the WhatsApp group in a few minutes. So you can, Dr. Lopez, you want me to send everyone's LinkedIn as a common thing, or do you want me to tell which judges are in which track?
Just let's you and I work on it. Maybe we'll do it tonight or early tomorrow.
Right, sure.
There's some moving parts. So I'm going to end the polling first. And Pradeep, thanks You're always so energetic. I think we all have to figure out how to drink what you're drinking. So
It's
I'm going to
premature
share
water.
your results. So here they are, one of the best. So thanks so much. I think people like the custom kind of way, and yet even somebody listening hopefully took an action or something that you can learn when Samantha was presenting, or Stu, or Lauren, or whatever. So great results, and thank you all. And what we're going to do is introduce Paul, but also recognize some of you. If you need to take a bio break, entirely up to you, but you're in for a treat. So Pradeep, you want to introduce Paul Singh, and then he'll be ready to go.
Right. It's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker of the day, someone who's kind of going to tell you the most important thing about the most important thing of any business, right? Customers. Without them, we are all nothing. All us as entrepreneurs, we are nothing. Dr. Paul Singh is a seasoned Silicon Valley investor. He's also a serial entrepreneur, and he's someone who's been in the academics as well. So he relates to students. I have seen him perform a session for the TiE program, which is the TiE Young Entrepreneurs Program, and I could relate to the way he connected to that younger generation. So you are in for a treat. And I think if out of all these workshops that we're doing, if I were to rate something that's the most important one, it's this. For the simple reason that irrespective of whether you get investments or don't get investments, your company has to get customers. Irrespective of whether you make good presentations or don't make presentations, you have to get good customers. So that's what we're going to learn today from Dr. Paul Singh, gaining and growing customers. The floor is all yours, Dr. Paul Singh.
Thank you very much. And by the way, I'm not a doctor, but
Sorry.
thank you for
Professor Paul Singh. Professor Paul Singh.
Because the other doctors will be upset if they have heard that. So, but yes, I do teach at Berkeley as well as at Northeastern. So, so first of all, let's just kind of, I know you guys have been sitting for a while. Why don't everybody just stand up for a minute? Maybe put your cameras on. Let's just kind of relax. So let's just all, just relax a little bit, because it looks like you've been sitting there for I don't know how long. So, and put your cameras on, guys. It's okay. We're all friends. Come on. It doesn't matter. So just put your cameras on. It doesn't matter. I read some of your companies you guys are working on. I'm very impressed with some of them. It's really beautiful. So I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you, even though it's supposed to be a presentation, but I'm hoping that we'll convert it into a conversation. I see Aubrey is in here again, and Aubrey was in my workshop that I was conducting the last for the TiE University, which is where we did a long sales and marketing sessions. So, all right. So now you guys do whatever you want to do. I'm going to stand still. So, can anybody tell me what's the number one reason why companies fail? Stuart, from Israel. Where in Israel are you? Are you in?
I'm actually in Cape Town at the moment, but the company is based in Israel.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Because
just here enjoying summer.
the part of Israel. I had a company. Half of the company was in Israel, so I have so many good friends there and really great memories. So.
Yeah, it's dynamic. It's great. So what I learned in entrepreneurship school was the key reasons that companies fail was cash flow, cash management, the wrong team. It's management, cash flow management.
Why do they have a cash flow problem?
I guess either not enough capital, they can't bootstrap enough, or they're unable to manage what expenses are priority and what comes first in terms of your expenses, or not having customers bringing in revenue, so you're constantly using capital that you've raised, and that's not offsetting itself.
So I think the key is not having enough customers. I have never seen a business fail if it has enough customers, because investors are willing to put money if you have customers. So question is how to get your customers, right? And how to get the right customers. In the beginning, getting right customers is really critical. I know some hands were up. Any other questions anybody has before we get started into diving into the...
Yeah, hello, sir. It's
Yeah.
Puran here.
Yes, Pura.
Yeah, when you asked the question, I just said, in my thought, why many companies fails because they build a really great product, but there is no demand for it. Like
Yep.
you made something that's not useful or not, you don't have that customer for that. In my
Exactly.
thought, so yeah.
Yeah, actually, it's very interesting. So most companies actually, so there was an analysis done, and about 80% of the causes can be attributed to not having enough customers, not having enough sales. So I thought rather than trying to first get into how do you get your first few sales, why don't we first talk about selling? You know, there are some basic principles of selling that we should all have if we ever want to be entrepreneurs. And everybody hates to do selling. Everybody hates selling. But, you know, believe it or not, you guys all do selling all the time. You probably pitched your plan a few minutes ago, right? What was that? That was selling. So how many people here actually like selling? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. I want to make sure by the end of this class, you guys all have your hands up to say, I like selling. Because if you don't like selling, you can never be a good entrepreneur. Believe it or not. It's just that you don't know what selling is, which is why you are saying this. So I'm going to prove it to you that you actually know selling and that you have to get good at it and how you get good at it. Sounds good? So let me just share some screen. Ideally, if I didn't have to share the screen and be able to give the presentation, I'd love that part. But I think it's easier to just put up the screen. Maybe I'm lazy, I don't know, but it helps. So hopefully my PowerPoint is not going to take forever. And I want to make this presentation interactive. So it's not a monologue. So I want you guys to raise your hands if you have any questions in between, and I will get to you as I see the hands raised. So we're going to talk about two different topics today. First is understand selling. And then we're going to talk about how do you get your initial customers, i.e. how do you sell again. So just my background, you know, I've been an entrepreneur, have done multiple startups and have been lucky to, you know, one of them in public, few got acquired and one of them failed. And so I learned from those lessons and I work with various startups in their sales and marketing areas, helping them figure out the scaling. So first principle of so we're going to talk about sales 101, right? And the first thing I'm going to tell you is your customers don't care about you. Now you think, oh my God, I thought my customers really love me. No, they don't love you at all right now. In fact, the master of this, you know, as we all know, Steve Jobs, he said it probably in the most brilliant way possible. And I just want you to read this quote because it is going to be very helpful, right? Your customers really don't care about you. What do they care? They care about themselves. They care about their own value, what they want to derive from your product. I mean, why do you think you care about Facebook, right? You don't care about Facebook because Facebook can make money off of you. You care because it gives you an opportunity to share something. So you, as a result, because you do more of it, Facebook is able to monetize and make money from you. So the thing that we have to care about as entrepreneurs is try to put ourselves in the shoes of my customers. Now, this is what This is why you guys all hate sales, right? Everybody knows these images, right? Has any of you ever done a door-to-door selling when you were, did you have to sell the cookies, Girl Scout cookies or any of those? No? Yes, I see some people admitting to the truth, others not. But Samantha, did you ever end up selling Girl Scout cookies? No? Oh my God. Okay. By the way, that's a very good skill for parents to give to their kids. Even though most of the time parents end up buying all those Girl Scout cookies themselves, right? Because I remember when my daughter had to do that, we had just started the company and I talked to my office manager and said, hey, are you buying cookies? She goes, yeah. How many do you want me to buy? And she had probably the most sales. But then I said, no, that would be wrong. Why don't you go sell others in the neighborhood too? So that way you'll get a sense of what it takes to sell. So I think this is not selling. This is what used to be selling, right? So can anybody tell me why selling has changed? Can somebody tell me who had a power in sales and who has a power now in sales? Jeremy, any idea?
I would say that the way we can connect with our customer has changed. Now we have a more, because of internet, social media, smartphone, there is a more direct way to reach them than to actually knock at their door.
Exactly. Kanchan, do you have a comment on it?
Sir, Paul, sir, yeah, thank you. Wonderful to be in your session. So earlier advertisers used to have the power and they used to thrust a lot of material our way believing that, customers would choose them basis the advertisements that they see. But today, yeah.
So I think the thing that you guys are all sort of hinting at, but not saying it in as many words as I want you to say it is, but before the seller had power because the information lied with the seller. Today, in the world of internet, I have power because I have information. I don't need that car salesman to tell me, hey, what is the feature of this car? You actually know more about the feature of this car when you walk into that store. You actually know its wholesale price. You know what the price in the neighborhood is. You know every little thing about that car way more than the salesperson knows if you've done your research. So that power shift that has occurred means selling is changed forever. We don't do selling in the old way, which I just showed you. Even if, I don't know, has anybody gone recently to even buy a car with your friends, family, or yourself? Has anybody bought a car recently? No? Kanchan says she did, right, Kanchan? Did you buy a car recently? Or Aubrey said he did?
No, not me.
Aubrey said he bought a car recently.
Yeah, and I did my research thoroughly, as you just said. I was a well-informed buyer, and I almost chose the car before I walked in.
So now what's the job of that salesperson? It's very hard, right?
Yes.
So now you have to think differently as a salesperson. And so we'll talk about what has changed. And this book, if you haven't had a chance to read it, I would recommend at least read the summary of the book. It puts sales in perspective for me. Why it has changed and how it has changed. And you can find lots of summaries on the web. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is, for most business books, I could actually get a summary in about, 10 minutes. And after that, the rest is just examples after examples of the same thing. The concepts are only in 2 to 3 pages. So I'm going to summarize the concept for you. Does anybody know what ABC meant in sales business? What What does ABC stand for in sales business? Lauren, can you tell us?
No, I haven't seen this before.
Take a guess.
ABC. Maybe the C stands for customer.
Lauren,
I'm not entirely sure.
Lauren, I'll help
So
you out.
does
The
it
first
mean
word,
always
first word
be
is
closing?
always. So yeah.
Sorry, what did you say?
So does it mean always be closing?
Always be closing. Does anybody know where that comes from?
Glengarry Glen Ross, the movie.
Exactly. If you have never seen this movie called Glengarry Glen Ross, there is a amazing scene in it where it says, hey, and in fact, you can just Google and you will get a little clip out of it, where it says, okay, if you make your number, you're going to get this car and all the awards. And if you don't make your number or your number 2, you're going to just get some bunch of knives. And if you don't, you're going to be kicked out. So this used to be the mode of selling. And in some sense, selling is always about closing. That world hasn't changed, but how we sell has changed completely. So in the new world, the new A is attunement. So Lauren, can you tell me what would that mean?
So I guess you just need to be attuned to what your customer is wanting, just like the Steve Jobs quote was saying, what they're desiring.
Bingo. You've got to put yourself in your customer's shoes. Most of the entrepreneurs think too much about themselves. They think about their product more. Guess what? Your customers don't give a damn about what your product is or what you are doing. They care about what is the problem you're solving for them, or what is something new you are giving to them, because that's why they're buying it. They're not buying because you have a product, right? They're buying because you're solving something for them, whether it is psychological need, whether it is emotional need, whether it is, real need, it doesn't matter. Now, who is a physics student who has studied physics very well? Jeremy, can you help us with what buoyancy is?
I don't know the word in English, buoyancy. I try to translate it. I'm sorry, I cannot help you.
Have you read Archimedes' principle?
It's the...
Yeah. Go, try. You're in the right path.
Okay. So it's the fact that when you put a mass into a liquid, the same amount of liquid will move up, I think.
Exactly. Right? Take a ball and try to put it inside a water tank. What happens? It bumps up, right?
Rise. Yeah.
So selling is like that, right? What happens is you are going to get 8, 9, 10 times failure. But you have to pick yourself up every time. In fact, that is how you're going to succeed. If you think the success is going to come immediately in sales, sometimes you get lucky, but most of the time, no. You got to try hard. Don't give up. If you believe in what you're doing and you believe you've done your research properly, you will win, but you have to try. I was listening to this podcast about Airbnb story. Can anybody tell me how many investors might have rejected Airbnb founder before anyone was willing to give him a single cent? Samantha, do you have a guess?
100?
Way more.
500?
He almost had 200 plus rejections. But as an entrepreneur, you have to have that buoyancy. You can't be bogged down if you're getting rejection. Instead, you got to learn from every rejection, right? You got to figure out, hey, is my message wrong or am I talking to the wrong customer? Both are very valid problems. So how do you test for, is my message wrong or is my audience wrong? You got to learn. You got to try different scenarios. If you're going to the same type of audience, you want to change your message and see if that message works better. And that brings me to the third thing, which is clarity. Anybody wants to take a shot at what clarity might mean in this case? How about Tyler? You can unmute yourself, Tyler.
Yes, hi.
So tell me, what would clarity mean in this context? Why do I need clarity as a salesperson?
I think if you're trying to satisfy a goal or a desire of a customer, you need to present what value you're offering them in the clearest of way. That's actually kind of falling back into that attunement.
Yes. So what is happening is we have so much information overload. And you probably heard from everybody before, what's your elevator pitch? Why does the word elevator pitch? How did the word elevator pitch come from? Why is that important? Anybody wants to take a guess?
Excuse me, sir. Sir, elevator pitch means we are going to discuss first the problem we are going to solve. And then we have to present with a solution for the customers, what the problem we are solving.
No. You're going to the next step. I'm saying what an elevator pitch is. Why did it come up in the entrepreneurial context? It came from a concept saying, I meet somebody on a certain floor and I know that they're going to get down at, let's say, floor 6, and it takes somewhere around, less than 30 seconds for them to get down to reach their floor. Now I need to convince them within that window of 30 seconds that I got something that they want to talk to me. In fact, most successes have happened with those things. So in a sales context, if you don't have a clear message, how are you going to be able to convince your customers? And that doesn't mean my message has to go on for minutes and minutes, right? Because in today's world, nobody has the time. I mean, look at yourself. If you want to get anything quick, you're from that generation. Your thing is reduced to 280 characters, which used to be 140. Now it is up to 280, thanks to Twitter. So that is what we are dealing with. So how do I make sure that my message gets communicated, that I at least generate enough interest? And that is what clarity is all about. How do you have the clarity of the message? So attunement is your buyer has a power, understand the perspective of the buyer. Buoyancy is the ability to stay afloat when you invariably experience rejection. He says 3 positive thoughts. I would say have at least 9 positive thoughts, because it's 9-1 is the rule of rejection. It's not 3-1. He's being generous. In my context, I see 9-1. And then clarity, ability to identify a problem your prospect is experiencing, and then explain how your product or service can help in a very sharp, concise manner. Okay? So let's move from the concept of selling to what we call a sales funnel. Now, if you Google sales funnel, you will probably see many people saying sales funnel is not really a funnel, and they'll tell you all 5 different ways. And if you Google, there would be 500 variations of this funnel. I made a very simple version of this funnel just to explain the concepts to you, because the concepts haven't changed. So first thing is suspects. Anybody want to tell me, what do you mean by suspect when I say you got a suspect? Jeremy, any idea?
I would say that it's people that you suspect being interested. I don't know.
This is someone who you think might be interested in your product. You don't know yet, right? In marketing terms, people call it a lead. And I say, meh, that's not really a lead. You walked into a trade show and you had 100 conversations and most of them didn't say, send me some information, or, you know, somebody wanted to pick up the t-shirt from you, so they gave you their business card. To me, that's a suspect. That's not really a lead. And so you got lots of suspect, right? But you want to get the right suspect. Now, has anybody ever experienced a full service sales thing? So, you know, let's look at an example. You know, I know many people here are from India, so let me ask, everybody has experienced a sari store, right? Where you go in and there is a salesperson trying to sell to the ladies that walked in the right sari. Kanchan, you can relate to that, right?
Yes, yes, Paul.
So what's the first thing that a good salesperson does as soon as you walk in?
Starts showing you the saris?
No, bad salesperson. What would the good salesperson do?
Ask what you want.
Yes, not only ask the right questions, right? He or she is not just trying to find out, they also want to know what's the price range you're going to buy it at. Because he may have 1,000 rupee sari, he may have a 10,000 rupee sari. He has to decide which one to show you because he wants to close the deal. He wants to figure out, are you even a buyer or not? Are you just here for shopping or are you here for buying? Yes, Manjinder. Manjinder, you have a question?
Yes, sir. At a sari shop, the shopkeeper starts asking the question, querying about what the kind of a product they want, what is the range of the product you need, and how much quantity you want, and what kind of the product it should be. It should be a shiny, it should be a bright, or it should be a dull in color. So after that, they present some prototypes of those products. I can say that some example products. Then the people starting saying that yes, I need. Then they move further for the best product that will be fit to their need.
Mm-hmm. So I think that the thing that you have to understand is a lot of times customers are not going to give the direct answer, right? So you have to be a smart salesperson, figures out, watches everything else, and then figures out, okay, what this person is asking me to show versus what they are here to buy, what is really the right mix I should show them, right? They also watch what clothes you're wearing. They want to know what occasion you want to buy this for, right? So they make all this determination. Now think of our new world. Everything is digital. Now my website, my sales, automated sales has to do this job. I have to qualify you. I have to create a qualification wall. So I know many of you are actually doing B2B sales from what I remember reading your business plan. There are few who are selling directly to consumers, but many of you are doing B2B sales. So you have to think of, how do I really qualify my buyers? And we'll talk about how to qualify it in a few minutes. And then once I qualify them, they're now my prospects. But you know what? People don't buy on their own. We think, hey, I got a product, they'll come and buy it. Yeah, sometimes you get lucky. But in general, you gotta follow up. You gotta follow up. You gotta follow up. And then they end up buying sometime. Does anybody know how many touches do we really need to make in today's world to get attention from anyone, and what it used to be, say, about 5 years ago? Stuart, do you want to give us the answer? No. Okay. Sai, Sharon, you want to tell us? Okay, I don't even know if these people are around.
Sorry, I've just got a headache, Paul. Sorry, sir.
Okay, so what do you think? How many touches did people need before you got a response from somebody? What used to be the norm in the industry, and what do you think it is today?
I think it must be at least 3, maybe 7.
Go higher. It's interesting. It used to be 3 to 4 until 5 years ago. Today we say it's a rule of 11.
Wow.
It was 7, now it is 11. And probably every year it goes up. Why do you think that is?
Savvier customers?
Sorry, say it again.
Customers are savvier, to your earlier point about having access to information. Maybe
too much information.
Say, Kanchan, what?
Too much information.
Yes, information overload and very little time. It may be most important to you, but it's not important to me. I got 10 other priorities. You are always number 10 for me. For you, you are number 1. So whose job it is to make sure that you become number 1 for me? It is your job, not my job as a buyer. So don't be afraid to follow up, but don't be a pest. There's a very fine line. And when somebody says back off immediately. Don't keep pushing it at that point. You can come back 6 months later, 3 months later, but don't keep pushing at that point. In fact, there are laws against it. And in fact, Paul, if anyone is interested, I just did a series of videos on sales and marketing for the TiE MBA program. So I'll make the link available to you later on. So you can share with them if they're interested. It's about almost 9 hours worth of content. So depending on if anybody is interested, you can watch them. But I think in the olden days, when you became my customer, I used to stop. But in today's world, I can't do that. Why not? Anybody wants to take a guess? Why can't I stop now? Why does my sales cycle not stop at being a customer anymore? Lauren, any idea?
I would say, kind of going back to, again, what you said, that, with the so much information and so many products, you could lose them if you don't kind of show them that you appreciate them.
You're getting there, but you're not there yet. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you bought something from Amazon? And let's say you bought maybe $10, $20 product first time. How much time did you spend researching that product?
Not much.
But you did research it, right? You looked at the reviews.
Oh, on the reviews. Yeah, that's true.
Right. So that reviews were from some customers. Yeah, and you believe those more than what you believe the company is saying. So the world is very different. The selling has changed. This is why I never stop when somebody becomes my customer. I want them to become my references, which is what I call crossing the love wall. You gotta make them love you. In fact, there is a quote from one of the cartoon person, which is really hit home, that if everybody in the world likes your product, but no one loves it, your product is going to fail. So the key to success for you is how do you find few people who are going to love your product? There are many people who will like it, but they're not going to make you successful. It's better to have 10 customers who love your product than to have 1,000 who just like your product but don't care that much to love it. So let's talk about each of these one more time. But before that, I thought I'll give you a preview. This is an actual customer thing from about 3 years ago. Actual customer site where they sell a lot through their website. So they start at about 50,000 visitors. They have this self-qualification wall, and then they call it a lead. So only 10K of those, so 1 to 5, become leads. And then we call it a marketing qualification wall, where marketing tries to figure out if they are the right people. And as a result of that, we generate what we call a marketing qualified lead. And it gets down by 5x again, and you get 2,000. Now it is handed off to sales, and sales has their own qualification. And then they find out that actually only 400 people are sales qualified leads. And then they do follow up, and only 100 of them become opportunities, meaning there is some interest. They might become a customer someday. And then they follow up, and then they follow up. And then out of that, 30 of them become customers. And guess what? Only 5 of them are willing to be your references. So this is what you have to do. So if you are planning your sales and you got to make, so there is a certain aspect of doing beginning sales, and there is a certain aspect of you growing your sale. In the beginning sales, your time is your friend, right? You're going to go out no matter what. You're just going to put your resources as much as you can, but you can't afford to build a company like that. You're going to have to automate a lot of things. You have to plan. So if it takes me 5 good references to generate from 50,000 visitors, I need to figure out how much money do I have to spend to get 50,000 visitors on my website, because they're not going to come for free. So that is part of you building your plan. When you tell me your go-to-market plan looks like this, I want to know, why does it look like this, right?
I have a question.
Sure.
Do these numbers represent like 1 month or 1 year?
This is a monthly data.
Monthly, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good question, though. I'm glad you're paying attention. So now, let's move from the next part of selling, which is called relationships matter. So I know something that, we feel that everything is transactional. No, it's not. People buy products from people they like. And this is why building those relationships matter. You got to get good at building relationships now. You got to find out who is willing to help you. In your startup, you're going to need too many friends. You can't afford to have enemies. So it's an effort that you got to start now. Start building your network. Start building those relationships. And you will be surprised at how many people are willing to help you. But don't just be transactional. And also be willing to help others when you get a chance, because ultimately it pays back. Now, in selling, activity matters. Because I showed you just now, sales is a numbers game, right? Starting from 50,000 down to 5. And whether you like it or not, sales is grinding. It takes a lot of effort. But then who said being an entrepreneur is a cakewalk? It's not. And sales, more than engineering, actually needs a stronger discipline. Can anybody tell me what do I mean when I say it needs a stronger discipline? Jeremy, any idea? Or Lauren has an answer. Go ahead, Lauren.
I would say you have to get comfortable with getting rejected and just
but
keep
what does strong discipline mean?
Yeah, maybe you just, no matter what, even if you don't want to, you keep going.
Well, but how do you make sure you keep going? You have to build a system. You can't just randomly start doing sales. If I followed up with somebody and they told me, call me in 3 weeks, and if I don't call them in 3 weeks, my bad. If I had a conversation with somebody and they gave me some idea that they said, yeah, it's not me, but maybe, John in my team might be a good candidate. And you didn't ask John's contact or an intro to John, either in the meeting or after, you lost an opportunity. So in sales, you got to listen and learn, and at the same time have a very strong discipline of follow-up. So you can't let it go. This is why there are so many CRM products in the market, customer relationship management like Salesforce and others. So you got to, after a while, once you have large number of contacts you are going in, you got to have a system in place. How do you follow up? How do you remember who to follow up with? How do you remember what you had a relationship with? So when you go to your customer meeting, please make sure you take down the notes. You remember all the things that you learned from that meeting, because every meeting for you is a great experience to build a better company. And the other thing, sales is transferring your enthusiasm to your prospects. Because I'm sure you're all excited about your project. You're all excited to talk about what you're doing. You want to make sure that your prospect get excited, because that is how your prospect is going to not only buy your product, even if they don't have the power to buy it, they're going to go in and tell others, hey, how to get this product into the system. And the other thing, the other rule of selling is don't overthink. Why? What do I mean by that? I see some confused faces. Okay. In engineering, we have to overthink, right? When we are architecting a product, I got to make sure it doesn't fail on certain scenarios. In sales, you are going to fail, and you're going to fail fast and continue to learn and continue to iterate. If you continue to wait to get your selling to start, because you don't have something X, you don't have something X plus 1, you don't have something X plus 2, you miss the boat. So what if you were wrong? Every opportunity is a learning opportunity where you're going to get better and better and better. So don't overthink. If something doesn't look perfect, doesn't matter, just launch it. So what? That's what you will learn in every process. In fact, most good salespeople start selling before they ever even think of a product. I know you guys already have a product idea. I'm hoping that you did some research before, but if you didn't, now is still a time. Don't wait. Start selling now. Okay. Now, how do I touch somebody? Has a very big difference. It is very important in the beginning, gets less important in the end. But face-to-face contact is still the best, COVID or no COVID, right? It's much easier for me, once you meet me in person, to not easily say no to you. Next step is phones. Phones still work. Even though your generation does not use phones, they still work. When you go into work situation, you don't have a choice. Email and social media, and then discussion forums. But sometimes we have to touch people in multiple ways. When I said 7 to 11 touches, if you call me 7 times, I'm going to get annoyed. So I have to make sure that I touch you in multiple ways. And in sales, we call this a 3-point touch, where I call you, I reach out to you on social media, and I send you an email. So that way, you covered on all fronts. And sometimes you repeat it multiple times to get hold of somebody. Generally, if you make 100 calls, if you get 5% people to even pick up their phone, you're lucky. So
I have a question.
Sure.
Is this the same for B2B as it is for B2C?
Great question. So for anything to start, you got to do everything the same way. Because I need to find my customers who love me, right? So in B2B, and I'm going to talk about B2B versus B2C in a few minutes. So I'll go into the detail. So hold your thought a little bit more, and I'll cover that, okay? The other rule of sale is this one: listen more, talk less. In fact, this is an actual data from a company that is in the business of listening, that people who talk more, the top salespeople have 60% of the time their customers talk, and they only talk 40%. And the bottom salesperson, 80% they talk and 20% customer talks. So get good at it, please. Start listening, not talking. As entrepreneurs, we all have a bad habit. We want to talk about our things a lot. Yes, you should, but in a context where you get your customers to talk. You're going to learn more from that than you're going to learn from talking. So our study concludes that the percentage of our customers who will buy from us without any effort whatsoever on our part is 0%. So let's start selling. And by the way, this link, this is a beautiful video to watch. Not from me, but from, it's a TEDx talk, and I'll have all this presentation for you. If anybody is interested, you can watch it. So somebody asked the B2B versus B2C question, so I thought I'll answer that first. We might be running a little bit late, but hopefully I'll cover it. So B2B is equal to a B and a B2C. What does that mean? That means I got to sell to the company, i.e. the business, and I got to sell still to the customer, the end customer. And in this case, it is not one individual, but it is a team of people. So I have to select the right business for my company. Am I going to sell to small, medium business? Am I going to sell to mid-market? Am I going to sell to enterprise? What is it that my product is going to be most successful in initially? How can I break in? What is the right profile of the company that is likely to be my customer? It is really important to figure that out first. If you have a product, which is, let's assume it's a $200,000 to $300,000 product per year, you know that SMB is not going to buy it. You know, mid-market may not even buy it. So your customers are only enterprise. But if on the other hand, you have a product which anybody can use, you have to know that the enterprise company will never be able to buy your product, because even if somebody downloads your product, their IT is going to make sure that they can't use it because they have rules. So you're probably better off starting with an SMB market. In fact, I did an interview with Eric Yuan for TiECon 3 years ago, the CEO of Zoom, and I asked him, hey, how did you get started? And he made a very interesting comment. He says, look, we started with an SMB because our competition was WebEx, where he came from. And WebEx was selling to the enterprise, and they were not serving the SMB and mid-market very well. So I started with SMB, plus I know enterprises have too many regulations and rules, and I have to be compatible with 100 other products, and I just did not have the resources. So I wanted to show success. So the success came in the SMB, where it was easier. And then they started to grow and became corporate product. Actually, in fact, if it was not for COVID, they may still not be an enterprise product. They were forced into becoming an enterprise product in a hurry. Then it's a question of trying to figure out, how is this industry segment likely, right? If I am building a product, which is, let's say there is a new, privacy law that is coming into the country, like GDPR and CCPA came in, and I have to say, hey, which type of industry is most likely to adopt it fast? Maybe companies that have a lot of regulations. So this is a thing that you have to figure out, what is my first attack? Where am I going to win? If you guys have not encountered this book called The Art of War, it's amazing. Just listen to its summaries. It's just great way of trying to understand the thinking about how you should think about selling, how you should think about winning in the marketplace. So you have to start small. You have to conquer that place. Then you can grow. Now figure out what kind of company you want to build, right? I call this 4 kinds of companies. Either you're doing company for a social good, kind of like a B Corp. Then you have to appeal to the senses of the person who is likely to be your buyer. You might be doing an insurance company, meaning cybersecurity, regulations, all this kind of stuff. I call them insurance companies. Nobody knows whether your product works or not, but they're going to buy one of everything just because they want to cover, we call that CYA in the business. And I won't spell it out. You guys know what that is. And believe it or not, most of you who are doing B2B products are probably stuck in this place called cost saving. And that is the worst place to build a startup. Unfortunately, 95% of the startups are only focusing on this part. Why do I say it is the worst part? For a very simple reason. I'll give you an example. In one of my startups, we go off to talk to this IT buyer, a CIO of a company. And we said, Mr. Customer, we can save you 70% on this product that you are buying from my competitors. And his answer was, okay, it's a $10,000 per year product for me. So you save me 70%. Great. You save me $7,000. Do you know what my budget is? No, $10 million a year. Do you think I care about $7,000 and disrupting my system? Go away. Maybe important to you, but not to me. So the cost saving argument is always a problem for that reason. Unless and until you are really doing a major cost saving, which is, is going to impact the bottom line of the company. Right? So the idea is always, when you're selling to a business, try to change it into a new revenue argument. Try to figure out how your message helps them sell more. It will go a long way. Most companies that use that message always succeed better than the others.
I have a question.
Sure.
I couldn't help but notice that there's no circle for convenience or just something that makes people's job easier in a corporation. So is that not something that companies take into account?
Great question. Why did I not put a column for convenience? If your convenience is on the argument of cost savings, I put it there. But if your convenience is going to ultimately help me, the company, grow my revenue, then it is there.
So where would someone like Zoom or Cisco come into this picture?
So let me put the Facebook into this picture. So what did Facebook enable you to do, which you couldn't do before?
I mean, some sort of a social media marketing where I can reach thousands of people.
No. You're talking more as a marketer. I want to know as a consumer, what did it do for me? It allowed me to now expand my world everywhere, that I could talk to anybody. I can share my pictures with my friends here and my friends there and whatever. So what was it trying to do? It was giving me a new revenue, something I could not do before. The revenue in this case is not always dollars. It's also emotional. It was giving me that emotional kick. And that was something new. I couldn't do this before. So all of a sudden, I got hooked to Facebook. I continued to do more and more and more. And it actually encouraged me to do more. Right? So Facebook generated new revenue for every users of theirs who got hooked. And what was the other one you said?
So something like Zoom would also come under this new revenue column.
Exactly. Because I can now talk to my customers over the video without having to travel. I can increase my sales because, in fact, one of the articles I was writing, which is about how the enterprise B2B sales, you could never do B2B sales more than $5,000 in the past without meeting somebody. It came to 50,000 pre-COVID. I think post-COVID, we are in for maybe $200,000 because culturally it became acceptable for people to have that meeting with you over video. So the world is going to change post-COVID. Hopefully that answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, just one more.
Sure, go for it.
So I mean, all these arguments are meant for us to understand where our product lies, right? So do we use these arguments when we approach a like B2B buyer? So do we say to, okay.
Absolutely. If you only say, I save you 10% cost, nobody is going to care. Your messaging has to be about what is it that you help them do. And remember, everybody likes to do new things, right? And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes more in detail. But I think the important thing here is to understand that in a B2B cycle, I have many, many masters. And I have to understand the role of every individual I meet. Who is an initiator, who is a decider, who is an influencer, who is actually a user, who is a gatekeeper, who is a buyer. And I need different philosophies or different messages for different people. So that's why B2B is nothing but a B2C multiplied by a factor. If you can do B2C, you can do B2B even better. This is a chart that somebody had in an article, which I thought was really amazing. Everybody knows Maslow's hierarchy. So they put the Maslow's hierarchy in terms of looking at how does a B2B sale happen. So you need to have a table stakes, right? It has to have right spec, right price, right compliance. You need a technical and functional advantage. Next. You need an operational and structural advantage. But what is going to do your sale is the personal advantage. This is why building those relationships, understanding your customer, getting in tuned with them is what is going to cause you to win a sale. And that does not change whether you're doing B2B or B2C. So let's say you want to now build your target accounts. You are in a B2B business. The first thing I would do is I'll try to build my lists. If you are in a B2C business, I think you should still do that. Because in a B2B business, if you're selling a $100,000 product, getting 3 customers is a win. If you're selling a B2B product, more like an SMB, you need to get at least 100 customers before I'll take you seriously. If you're in a B2C product where revenue comes really, really late, maybe you need 1,000 customers before I'll take you seriously. So you need to have a system to learn. And so you start in a B2B business, we start with what we call a list building. So I figure out who are my target customers I'm going to go after. There are many, many tools in this list you can use. And remember, your conversion percentage is not going to be more than 1 to 10. So if you need to get 3 customers, you better have a list which is at least 10 times that. And then because you have only so many hours in the day as a founder, you don't have much time, you don't have much money, you can hire other people. You got to figure out, how do you rate your accounts? Where should you spend your most time? And then this is something you will continuously do, no matter how big you get. Earlier, you will do it as a founder, then you hire a right VP of sales who's going to do it correctly, and so on. And then you got to understand the target persona if you're doing a B2B. If you're doing a B2C, you still need to understand the target persona. You need to know your customer. You need to know the right segmentation. And that is a key. So the first thing you got to understand is, how do I segment my customers? Now, when you build a business plan, you're trying to sell a vision. You're trying to sell a vision to be very, very broad, right? You want to conquer the world. But now when it is time for you to sell and execute, you don't want to conquer the world because you're going to fail. You got to narrow. You got to figure out, how do I find that right segment that has the most pain that I am solving? In fact, your go-to-market plan in your business plan should say, how are you going to get that beachhead? Because that is going to differentiate you from somebody else who may have exactly the same goal. When Facebook got started, do you know what is the first segment they chose? Anybody?
College students.
Not even college students, only Ivy League. And then they extended to other college students. Without an EDU domain, you couldn't get inside of Facebook. Do you think they didn't have a great vision? They obviously did. But they knew how to get to the market in steps, show, win all along the way, and then expand. So when you build your business plan, your go-to-market strategy, think of the first few markets where you are likely to win big, where the pain is high and you have access. So that is important. Second important thing is messaging, positioning, your unique value proposition, your unique selling proposition. That is very, very important. So I'm going to go through each of them in a quick minute, and so then I'll come back to that. So your messaging is about thinking, how do I make sure that I can be on the top of your mind? So let me give you an example. How many people know, I would imagine everybody knows, who was the first climber to Mount Everest, right? But if I ask you who was number 10th climber to Mount Everest, does anybody remember? But if I ask you who was the first woman Mount climber, you might remember. In fact, you might even Google and get that answer. The 10th one, you will never get an answer. So what did they do? Somebody created a different positioning. Now I can remember the first woman. Now, when the first American went there, he was probably 30th or something. So what did he say? First American to climb the Mount Everest. So positioning is figuring it out. What is that unique position I can get in your head that you will remember me? But at the same time, we have a box for everything. If I don't get in the right box also, I'll miss. So you need both. You need to first belong in the right box. Then within that box, you need to create a little niche for yourself. It's a hard thing to do, but it is something you have to try. So let me quickly go through this. So startup segmentation, as I said before, riches are in niches. Don't try to be everything to everybody in the beginning. You'll fail. So keep segmenting your market down, down, down until you find the right segment where you're going to win. And constructing your message, remember, always put yourself in your customer's shoes. Now, you're going to answer this question every time, every day. If we had more time, I go through this in great detail, but we don't have time for it. But these are three things you should always know. The three W's. Who is your customer? What problem do you solve? Or what habit do you create? And why you? And why now? If your website cannot communicate that within 5 seconds above the fold, I am gone. I'm not going to stay on your site. So spend a lot of time thinking through that. That message is key. You got to make sure what the purpose of your website is. If your purpose of the website is a B2B, you're probably going to do lead gen, which means you need to have some way for me to give you my information. If your purpose is to sell, you're going to give me discounts or whatever it takes for you to sell me on it. If your purpose is informational, doesn't matter. You got to make sure your site works on all devices. It's becoming less and less of an issue. But if my target customer happens to be in India, where 3G may not be readily available in some places, and that is my target segment, I got to make sure that it can work on low bandwidth. I don't load my product with lots of images. So all of those things have to be taken care of. And you know, we are all impatient people. If your site doesn't load quickly, I'm going to go away. So make sure your site loads quickly. Make sure it is trustworthy. How do you gain trust? If you're a new startup, you need to show me that I can trust you. So you go with the third parties. Somebody, maybe a customer quote, maybe an analyst or press person wrote something about you. Maybe you won some award. If nothing else, talk about your founders awards. It doesn't matter. Gain instant credibility. So I want to look and stay. And by the way, if you have spelling and grammar mistakes, you're going to lose me immediately. I know a lot of people will have those mistakes in your business plans. So I'm warning you, if I am a good investor and I look at that you could not take the effort to make sure that your business plan has spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes in, PowerPoint, it's very hard to, you can always have grammar mistakes. So that's okay, but not, glaring mistakes and spelling mistakes. If you can't really pay attention to those, I don't believe I can give you my money to take care of. Because if you could not do one presentation and you couldn't make sure that all the mistakes are clarified, how can I trust you with this much money? So you're immediately no. Same thing in your resume. Then obviously we're going to talk about discoverability and so on, and we can continue with that. And you guys all know this stuff, so I'm not going to worry about it. But the point is, there are different social networks. As a startup, you will be told to do everything. And I'm going to tell you just the opposite. Figure out where your initial customers are hanging out the most. Cut out the rest. You don't have time. You don't have bandwidth to manage those networks. So focus on where your customers are. As time goes on, you will have more resources and you can add others. Sometimes if on a certain network, when it starts new, like, right now, Clubhouse is really hot. People are finding success there. Maybe that's the right thing for you. I don't know. So long as you know where your users are hanging out, you figure out those places to be seen, to be heard from. That is going to give you success. Lead gen. If you are a B2C business, you want to make sure your inbound marketing works really well. If you are a B2B, in the initial phases, no matter what your product price, you better be prepared to do outbound, because inbound is not going to give you enough immediately. You will have to try hard to get that.
Sir, could you please define inbound and outbound?
Sure. So inbound means somebody is coming on its own to my website and giving me the information. And outbound is when I'm going to make calls, I'm going to reach out to people and all that. Okay. And in fact, in the new business, you have to do all. Inbound and outbound have to be combined in a certain way. In different stages of the business, you mix it differently. If you're doing B2C, your product only costs, $5 a month, you can't afford to do outbound. If your business is a $1,000 product, you are expected to do outbound. People expect that. Nobody's going to buy a $1,000 product from a startup just from a website unless you've done enough brand building already. Okay. So now the digital marketing is really important. And I call this the 3-step process, where you're going to build certain assets. You're going to use various tactics for distributing those assets, and you're going to get your results. And then you are going to measure. So as an entrepreneur, one advice I can give you is, there are many people who can do marketing if you give them infinite amount of money. A good marketer is the one who can actually give you the results without spending a lot of money. So which means we got to measure constantly, and we got to continue to learn from it. There are all these things, your websites, your social media sites, your mobile app, your content and customer database, earned coverage. We don't have time for all that, but basically you have various assets. You are going to use various tactics of distribution, and there are various measurement tools, and you got to mix and match them to get it right. And then back to our sales funnel again. As a founder, as a beginning company, somebody who will tell you just go hire a salesperson is wrong. Salespeople, the professional salespeople you will hire, they really need a guidance. They really need to be told what works. So as a founder, whether you like it or not, it is your job to get that messaging done right, to find out where the customers lie. Once you have that understanding, once you have done some successes, now you can hire a salesperson who can repeat it. So it is your job as founders to really get this process right. And I call this the founder-led sales, and then comes the sales-led sales, and then comes the process-led sales. The first 2 to 5 sales must be done by founders. Then you can hire salespeople who will then take it and start moving it along. And then once you've gotten the sales working well, then you can set up the process. I think we went through that. So in summary, target accounts first, where you're going to succeed, companies or customers you're going to succeed most with, target persona, what is it that you need for each of them, get your basic tools of the trade, i.e. a simple website, a simple social site, and some kind of a content where you can capture their information. And then you need to have a lead gen process in place. And then you're going to nurture your leads with the 7 to 11 touches. And then hopefully the idea after all this is to create a sales playbook version 1.0. And that is what you can do to succeed. And I finished on time, but I do want to take your questions.
Yeah, we can stay on and maybe people can put it in chat and then you pick out the ones you want.
Oh, put your hands up.
Yeah.
Put your hands up. So just use your hands up. That's easier. But I will look in chat as well. So.
And just in case people leave, I'm going to start a poll, but go ahead and whoever raises hands.
You have a question.
Yeah, it was just about the table that you show with all the different the marketing strategy. There were the SEO and everything. To know like all different marketing. Can I say? For example, SEO is really long. It takes a lot of time. It can take a lot of money also to have experts to create a blog that are effective and everything. I wanted to know if it's something that was we should put as a priority, or maybe paid advertisement should be priorities first to have a result.
Great question. So Jeremy, I got few, your call got interrupted a little bit because of internet. But anyway, what I got from you, and which is very good question you asked, is, hey, first of all, do I need to do everything? The answer is no. I was just showing you the things that are available for you, and what you can and cannot do is up to you. Because as a starting company, you can only do few things well. So you have to pick what is going to work for you, number one. Number two, you asked a question of SEO versus SEM. So SEM is search engine marketing, where you put an ad, and SEO takes a very long time, minimum 6 months, if you're lucky. So SEO is a long-term investment. And if you have only so much resources and you got to generate leads today, you better start on SEM immediately, because you are paying and you're getting the leads. So for a B2B, initial is SEM. And then over time, you want to make sure that you have enough content that you can generate the SEO as well. Did that answer your question? Okay, Kanchan.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so Paul, this is a real life problem that I'm facing is, how do you get your, basically with very basic, let's say, maybe an app or an online offline process, basically a very patchy process. How do you get your initial customers to convert to customers?
Tell me, who are your customers and what do you do?
So I'm into basically giving small personal unsecured loans to salaried millennials. And so salaried millennials are my customers, and I want them to take small loans from me. And so it's a very patchy process right now, as of now, to onboard them. So
hold on. So are you, hang on. Are you a marketplace so that the millionaires are going to put money in that you're going to give the loan to other people?
We intend to be a marketplace, but as of now, it's more of at a prototype level.
No, but what is your intention? Your intention?
We want to be a marketplace.
So who is the first one you have to recruit? Is in the marketplace, you always have a challenge. Which of the two sides is more important? And I would contend that for you, probably the most important is the millionaire who wants to give the loan, right?
Absolutely. Buyer. Yeah.
But the buyer is going to like your pitch if you tell them what kind of people are you going to give loans to, right? And so
yeah. So
you want to have that emotional. So your selling is emotional, right? Where somebody, if I show a buyer a video which is somebody in a poor neighborhood who is saying, hey, if I had these $10, I could generate this and I would pay back everything. Or I needed to go to this lender who took away my whole thing and I wish I had a better solution. So you need that emotional pitch from some prospective beneficiary that I want to play to my millionaire customer and say, hey, don't you think you want to help here?
Right. So buyer here would be the borrower, Paul sir. It would be the borrower in this case, in my case.
So, okay, so maybe I didn't understand it. I understood it as you want the millionaires to give you money that you're going to invest for the poor people. Is that what?
Yeah, no, not really. At this point in time, it's more of a B2C model wherein basically we provide the money to the millennials and they are borrowers basically.
So what's the value proposition?
The value proposition is convenience, is small personal unsecured loans, which maybe the bigger financial institutions are not willing to provide. So value proposition is convenience, ease of use.
Are you kind of doing, what is this company here? Starts with A in the US, I'm forgetting the name, where they give you basically loans. I mean, they made their money in buying most of the people who bought Peloton, use them. Assured, I think it's called Assured or something. Have you researched your competition? Have you seen how other people have done it?
Yes, so there's a good demand for it. So a lot of people approach me, but to get them to convert to customers is a problem, in the sense for them to take a loan from me because of maybe the patchy process right now. It's difficult, but there is a demand. There's a clear demand.
What are you? So one of these things that these guys figured out is they tied up with Peloton, as an example.
Right.
And so Peloton was trying to sell a $3,000 to $4,000 bike.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't have that kind of a money lying around, even though they are good from a credit perspective to pay. So Peloton did not want to take the ownership of trying to, give the loans. So this company came in the middle and basically said, hey, I will extend the loan to every one of your customers.
Sure. Partnerships.
Huh?
We are talking about partnerships.
Yeah. So there was a huge need in the market for it.
So,
however, the partnerships don't work right away. You got to have a system in place. First, I need to be assured that you actually have a system that is working.
Yes, sir.
So you need to identify what are these 3 or 4 big products that might be the reason why your buyer wants money from you.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to appeal to them saying, hey, you want to buy this? I can make it easy for you.
Sure. Sounds good, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else has any questions? I don't see any hands up, so I'm assuming no one else has any questions. Unless there is. Samantha, you have a question? Go for it.
Yeah, I have a question. So our project, our app is to help people decorate their walls with art. And so we provide 3 kind of areas. One is you can discover new art to purchase that matches your taste. We'll help you visualize your personal artwork that you already own and this new artwork on your wall. And then we'll help you execute and actually hang your artwork up on your wall. So we're solving these 3 areas. And so we're both a tool because we help people visualize and kind of decorate and create their ideal spaces, but we're also a marketplace because you can purchase new artwork. And so in that way, we feel maybe a bit fractured, and because we're kind of a service and a tool in that way, but then we're also this marketplace.
What are you best at? You cannot
visualizing
be best
art on wall. Visualizing art on wall.
So do you have like an AR application or something?
Yep.
So why don't you first just give me that tool, right?
Okay.
And maybe, maybe you can tie up with other people who might actually start using your tool.
Okay. So start with the visualization piece and then.
Because that's your unique value. Rest of it is not your unique value. So maybe
Okay.
you want people to just come in to visualize. And then while they are visualizing, you can suggest art that they can put in to see how that goes along with it. And that suggestion is what you're going to sell.
Yep, exactly.
So, if I see that you are just a marketplace, I'm not going to come to use you for visualization.
Okay.
Like if Facebook had told you that you come to my site because I want to monetize you, you would have never gone there.
True.
So you are trying to tell me already your intention. And as much as I want you to be honest and upfront, you are being too honest and too upfront, which is going to hurt you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I see one chat question.
I got a quick question.
Sure.
Greg. So I'd asked it in chat, and it's not technically for my startup, but I'm advising a lot of startups in the gaming industry.
Okay.
I won't say a lot. I've got one right now. And I've had others that they're really just interested in building large numbers of, I'll call them customers. They're not really customers. They're participants, part of a community. And that's what really drives the investor's interest.
Yeah.
I know they're not customers per se. They're attending, they're eyeballs. They may, convert into revenue simply by sheer size and mass. How would you advise a client like that or a startup like that?
So I think for them, I look at a factor called MAU and DAU.
Sure.
I'm always trying to see, are their DAUs going up in relationship to their MAUs? Meaning, are they getting more engagement or not?
Right.
If they are getting more engagement, I will be able to monetize it someday. It's fine. I don't worry about it. Monetization is almost a year to 18-month process for these businesses. So it's fine. It might even be longer, right? Facebook took 5 years before it monetized a single person. So I would focus on what are you doing to engage your customers more. If you're building tools which is engaging them, you'll be fine.
Okay. I pretty much the same same thought process. I think their real issue is probably the really the engagement of the game itself. Is that really driving these numbers? Because people come in and look and go out, and probably they never see them again. We don't have a good way of measuring that.
So that means, so first thing they need to do is they need to put the analytics tools in there so they can measure where are people dropping, right? And then I had a similar situation in one of the companies. It was not a gaming company, but we were seeing that users were dropping off at a certain point. So we put some analytic tools to see it. And then we actually talked to individual customers. And then we talked to few customers together in a group. And it was interesting, the answers were different in all three cases. But then wherever we found a common way between when we talk to people individually and when we talk to them in groups and whatever our analytics was telling us, then we were able to hone it down to say, oh, actually, this is the real problem.
Sure.
Right? If your customers aren't inviting others, you have a problem as well. In this business, you don't have money to go. So if your customers are not bringing other customers, you better put some tools in so they bring other customers.
Mm-hmm. Good advice. Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Sold. All right, folks. Thank you very much. Hopefully that was useful, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singh, on behalf of TiE University and all of us at TiE. It's been a pleasure having you here, and I'm sure the impact of your talk is going to be far-reaching, and we will see the results in when we see more of these startups trying to sell more rather than just stopping with their ideas. So thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure having and hosting you here.
Sell.
Paul, do a 30-second, 60-second commercial on TiECon, because some of the folks here, they're all invited, but they may or may not have ever gone before. You've been doing that for many years.
Has anybody not registered for TiECon.org yet? Can I see the hands who have not registered? Come on, if you want to be an entrepreneur, there is one thing that you all need, is an inspiration. And then education. So you can get inspired by every keynote there is at TiECon. So go sign up for TiECon.org.
And use a discount code of all caps global. We put that out before on the WhatsApp group. As an example, the founder of Netscape, who I've always enjoyed listening to, is just one of the many keynote
Ratan
speakers.
Tata is there. Founder of Palo Alto, the CEO of Palo Alto Networks is there. One of the most successful investors, Deepak, is there. So you have amazing list of speakers in the grand keynote. So I am managing the grand keynote stage. And then I will also be interviewing in the entrepreneur track on Saturday. I'll be interviewing an entrepreneur, Rehan Jalil, who has created, he's on his third startup. And so, that's another session. And, there is something for everyone. So you just have to look at the agenda and you'll be amazed at how many things are there.
Yeah.
And we have, somewhere around 250 speakers. So, you should be able to find something of interest to you.
Yeah. They're attending the Startup Bootcamp on Thursday, and then obviously TiECon runs Thursday through Saturday, right, of this coming week.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, yeah. And then there are Mentor Connect sessions for anybody who wants to join those if you haven't joined yet. And that's probably a worthwhile investment. I think that is not free. But
yeah, we're doing that tomorrow, free for these students, though. We're doing a session like that tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. So and if you are looking for real money, then there is a VC Connect session as well that you can become part of, where you're not just doing a school project, but you're actually doing a real thing. And, we play with real money there.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Paul, thanks for joining us. All the best for the rest of the weekend in California. And we'll stay on and just, Pradeep, anything else to cover about tomorrow's sessions? Paul, thanks so much. As always, a great session. We've recorded and put on YouTube. You'll send me some slides. We'll also upload those.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
Pradeep,
So
anything about all set?
Primarily try to be on time and with the entire team because we have lined up a few mentors who are taking out their time to be with your team and help you on this journey. So try to extract the most out of it. At least, if not all the 5 of you in a team, at least 2 of you or 3 of you should be there so that you get real good insights. And after that, we have the pitch mocks. So please be prepared with your PowerPoints and your presentations. You will do a real mock of what you're going to do on 15th and 16th at the finale. So it's a good way to practice and then get some more insights from the jury who are all investors. So you get kind of the real deal from the horse's mouth. Yep. Good. Otherwise, all good. Thank you so much for joining us today. And any questions, Paul and I are here to answer.
Sounds good. Enjoy the rest of the day wherever you are, and see you accordingly at the Mentor Fair. And, what is it called? Oh, mocks or practice round. I got too many things going here, so all good. Kanchan, thanks for your great comments, saying it was a useful day that you spent with us. So.
Thank you.
All good.
Good night. Dr. Lopez, you want to stay on this call or shall we get on PZ?
You just stay here for a minute. All good. Stu, it looks like are you having, did